Hello everyone, we are Group 9 and tonight we are bringing together everything we have learned this semester about critical thinking, creativity and innovation and showing you how it's all come to life in our project, Swarmflight. Over the past month, we studied some of the world's most creative minds and forward-thinking organizations. We learned from Salman Khan that purpose-driven leadership can change education globally. From Tyler Schwab, that creativity is a habit, not a gift built through routine and discipline. From Robert Thornton, that where idea and discomfort often spark the biggest innovation. From Pixar, that psychological safety and collaborative culture turn individual idea into collective brilliance. From Omi Webb, the flexible futurist balance flair, imaginative exploration with focus, careful analysis. From Vijay Govindarajan, that great innovators manage the present, create the future, and selectively forget the past. These weren't just listen to memorize, they become our thinking toolkit. And we put that toolkit to the test in a real world challenge, reimagining urban air traffic management. That's where Swarmflight was born. At this scenario, swarm-based system from drones and air taxis, inspired by bird flocking, designed with logic, and validated through critical inquiry. Tonight, we will walk you through how we applied each of these principles, from transmission to tram discipline, from Pixar Corporation to Web Force Test, to turn an in-between idea into feasible future-ready innovation. It all starts with a single shift in thinking, from accepting how things are to imagining how they could be. We will now begin with our swarm flight story.
Hello everyone, my name is Yasin, and on behalf of Group 9, it is my honor to introduce our final project, Swarmflight, a decentralized swarm-based air traffic management system for the future of urban mobility. We are living at the dawn of an aerial revolution. Drones are delivering packages, e-vehicles are preparing to transport passengers, and our cities are on the verge of a new layer of transportation, the urban sky. But with this opportunity comes a critical challenge. How do we safely and efficiently manage hundreds, even thousands of autonomous aircraft in the same crowded airspace? Current systems rely on centralized control tower, ground radar, and human operators, approaches that are too slow, too expensive, and too fragile to scale. This is the problem we set out to solve, not by improving the old system, but by reimagining it from the ground up. Inspired by the elegant coordination of bird flocks, Swarmflight replaces central control with farm intelligence. Each drone becomes a thinking node in a resilient mesh network, communicating directly with others using simple bio-inspired rules, separation to avoid collisions, alignment to move in harmony, and cohesion to stay together as a group. This isn't just a theory. We validated through simulations handling over 1,000 drones in dynamic urban environments with real-world obstacles and weather disruptions. And beyond the algorithm, we built a full stack solution from edge AI hardware and hybrid 5G mesh communications to live a web dashboard for operators and automated compliance tools for regulators. But technology alone does not guarantee impact. That's why we anchored our work in research and critical thinking. We analyze market trends. The UAM sector is projected to reach at 30 billion by 2030, surveyed industry stakeholders, studied FAA and EASA regulations, and conducted a full feasibility study covering technical, financial, and social dimensions. We didn't just ask, can we build it? We asked, should we, and for whom? This led us to design with scalability, safety, and sustainability at the core, ensuring Swarmflight reduces infrastructure costs by up to 90% enables near zero collisions operations, and supports greener cities by shifting deliveries from truck to the sky. Today, You'll hear from our team not only about what Swarmflight is, but how we created the collaborations, the critical analysis, the iterative design, and the lessons we learned along the way. This project is more than a proposal. It's a case study in how structured thinking, creativity, and teamwork can turn a bold idea into a viable blueprint for the future. Thank you. And now I'll hand over to Riham, who will talk you through our detailed written report.
Thank you, Yassine. Well, our presentation highlights the vision and innovation behind Swarmflight. Our comprehensive writing report provides the depth, evidence, and critical analysis that ground that vision in reality. I would like to walk you through its structure and key insights. Our report is divided into five core sections, beginning with additional problem statements. Here, we didn't just describe the limitation of current UTM systems, we analyzed their failure points, latency in high-density traffic, vulnerability to single-point outages, and exorbitant infrastructure costs. We support this with data from real-world trials in cities like Singapore and Dubai where near misses have already signaled the urgency for a new approach. From there, into our methodology and solution design. This section outlines how we applied bio-inspired swarm algorithms, specifically Reynolds-Boyd model, but extended with the urban-specific rules from geofencing, priority routing from emergency drones, and real-time weather adaptation. We also designed our technical architecture, a four-layer model integrating physical hardware like NVA, Jetson, mesh communication layers, swarm intelligence models, and cloud-based oversight. Each layer was validated through simulation tools like RSIM and Gazebo before progressing to lab and field tests. Perhaps the most rigorous part of the report is our feasibility and impact analysis. We conducted a puzzle evaluation to understand political, economic, and regulatory factors, as well as analysis to weigh our strengths against real-world risks, and the financial model showing a clear path to profitability, with break-even projects within 18 months post-launch. We also include findings from our pre-launch survey of 80 industry stakeholders, which revealed a 72% response rate and a strong demand for decentralized results UTM solutions, especially in logistics and healthcare. The report closed with the deployment roadmaps and ethical consideration, including our fast certification plan with VAA and EACA, risk mitigation strategies from cybersecurity and final integrity, and a discussion on public acceptance and privacy. This isn't just a technical document, it's a blueprint for responsible innovation. In essence, our report demonstrates that Swarmflies is not only a technology feasible but also market ready, regulator aligned, and scalable. It's the foundation upon which our presentation stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Riham. Building on what Riham shared, I'd like to walk you through the core framework of critical thinking that structured our work on Swarmflight and every case we explored. Critical thinking isn't random questioning, it's a deliberate cycle of mental actions. First, come observation, not just seeing, but really noticing. In Swarmflight, we didn't just read reports about drone congestion. We looked at flight data from cities like Singapore and Dubai, noticing patterns of near misses in high density zones. Then, analysis, breaking complex systems into parts. We separated the problem into communication, coordination, safety, and regulation, tackling each before connecting them again. This mirrors what we learned from Twilight Top. Creativity is built step by step, through preparation and structure, not sudden inspiration. Next is evaluation, judging the credibility of information. We didn't just trust market forecasts. We surveyed 80 industry professionals and found 85% adopted current centralized systems could scale. That data became the bedrock of our proposal. Then, inference. Drawing evidence-based conclusions from our research, we inferred that decentralized, bio-inspired coordination wasn't just possible, it was urgently needed. And finally, reflection, questioning our own biases. We constantly ask, are we too in love with our own idea? Are we ignoring privacy or ethical risks? This kind of humility is what Salman Khan showed when he left finance to start Khan Academy. He reflected on his purpose, not just his skills. This framework didn't just guide Swarmflight, it shaped how we analyzed every case study, from Pixar creative culture to the Covent-Arrangement three-box solution. It turns thinking from a feeling into a repeatable, reliable process. Now, I'll pass it to Taj, who will show how we balance imagination and logic in our design.
Yasin just outlined the structure of critical thinking. Now I will show how we applied it to balance creativity and logic in Swarmflight. In our team, we often refer to Amy Webb's concept of flare and focus. Flare is the imaginative divergent thinking. The what if for us, that was what if drones could fly in perfect harmony like a flock of birds. Focus is the analytical convergent thinking. The how, that means how do we simulate, test, and validate this without real world risk. We use tools like AirSim and Gazebo to create digital twins of cities and simulate over 1,000 drones at once. The data didn't lie. It showed us where our algorithms succeeded and where they failed. This is where critical thinking acted as a bridge. It allowed us to dream boldly but verify rigorously. We also took inspiration from Pixar's culture of collective creativity. At Pixar, early and unfinished work is shared openly in brain trust session. Feedback is honest but kind, focused on improving the idea, not the person. In our team, we adopted this. We regularly presented half-formed concepts, invited critics, and learned to separate our egos from our ideas. This approach prevented groupthink and encouraged what Robert Sutton calls weird ideas. Those unconventional, uncomfortable thoughts that often lead to breakthroughs. For example, when we consider drone failures, instead of avoiding the topic, we design a LoRa mesh fallback system. A simple but resilient backup that came from thinking differently. Ultimately, critical thinking taught us that innovation lives at the intersection of imagination and evidence. Now, Reda will explain how we use critical thinking to anticipate and mitigate risk.
Thank you, Tej. While Tej focused on the creative side, I would like to highlight how critical thinking helped us anticipate risk and turn obstacles into opportunities. In some fights, we identified major risks early: regulated delays, cybersecurity tiers, signal offense, and public skepticism. But instead of farm them, we analyze them systemically. We use tools like SWOT and PISTL to structure our thinking. Politically, how would FAA and ESAA regulation evolve? Economically, was the market ready to pay for our solution? Socially, would people accept drones flying over their cities? Technologically, were 5G and Edge AI mature enough? And legally, what certification would we need? Environmentally, would we reduce carbon footprint? That wasn't just an academic exercise, it directly shaped our design. For example, knowing regulative and system was a top concept was built complex into system with automated login and geography. We also applied visual governance three-box framework. Box 1 manage the present, focus on core teach development. Box 2 forget the past, let's go to update assessment about central control. Box 3, create the future experience with AI-driven routine and protein system for emergency drone. And we embraced what robot solution calls constructive discomfort. We invite outsiders to contribute our plan, run assault announcements, workshop, and even role-played at hackers to test our cybersecurity. This process risk awareness just make Swarmflight stronger. It prepared us for real-world development. Now, Noor will share how critical thinking strengthens our teamwork and collaboration.
Thank you, Reda. While Reda focused on external risks, I want to highlight how critical thinking transforms our internal team dynamics. Critical thinking thrives in an environment of physiological safety. Our team members feel safe to question, suggest, and even fail without fear. We built that intentionally. From Pixar, we learned the value of felt feedback. Our ideas are critical, not people. In our meetings, we used phrases like "I wonder if" instead of "that won't work," which keep dialogue open and respectful. From Salman Khan, we learned the importance of ownership and self-paced learning. Each team member took responsibility for their domain, whether it was market research, algorithm design, and stockholder survey. But we also supported each other across boundaries. This was especially important when deadlines loomed. Instead of rushing to finish, we pause to reflect. Are we making decisions based on evidence or pressure? The reflection often saved us from costly mistakes. We also practiced perspective thinking before dismissing an idea. We do ask, what if we are wrong? What evidence would change our minds? This reduced confirmation bias and encouraged intellectual humility. Our pre-launch survey was a perfect example of collaborative critical thinking. We didn't just collect responses, we interpreted them together, divided meanings, and let the insights guide our business model and pricing strategy. In the end, critical thinking wasn't just a tool for the project, it was the glue of our teamwork. Now Irfan will discuss the barriers we faced and how we overcome them.
Thank you, Nurjahan. Even with the best intentions, critical thinking faces barriers throughout the project. We encountered three major ones: bias, time pressure, and group thinking. Early on, we experienced enthusiasm bias. We are so excited about swarm technology that we almost overlooked privacy and noise concerns. We countered this by assigning a devil's advocate in each meeting whose job was to poke holes in our logic. Time pressure was constant. It's tempting under deadlines to choose speed over depth, or recited by scheduling reflection sessions, short focused meeting where we asked, are we thinking clearly or just thinking fast? And group thinking, we desire harmony over the truth over the silent risk. We fought it by inviting external perspectives, whether from industry surveys, academic papers, or guest feedback from the other groups. We also embraced diversity on thought with backgrounds in engineering, business, design, and ethics. We challenge each other's assumptions constantly. This aligns with that Thorpe teaches. Creativity grows when we learn from others' challenges, not just their success. And from Amy Webb, we learn that importance of alternating between flair, focus, making space for big ideas, but grounding them in data. Overcoming these barriers did not just improve Swarmflights, it made us better thinkers, collaborate, and innovators. Thank you.
These courses helped me understand that creativity and critical thinking can be learned and improved over time. I realized that creativity isn't just a natural talent, it's a habit that grows through practical and discipline. The presentations taught me to challenge assumptions, think boldly, and still stay focused. I also learned that unconventional approaches can lead to innovative solutions. At the same time, the technical topics, especially electrical engineering bases, showed me how creative ideas connected to real world applications like circuits used in drone and urban air mobility. This course made me more curious, analytical, and confident working in team. Most importantly, it's reminded me that learning is lifelong and empowered me to solve problems both critically and logically. Thank you.
There is one key lesson that ties together futurism balance of broad vision and sharp focus. Swarm Flight's group intelligence picture safe creative culture, propose driven life's work presentation step by step, creative process and the weird idea that spark innovation. Real progress doesn't come from long dinners or enable fantasy. Instead, its formation when blood in conversion 12 are grounded in careful analysis. When team follows simple shared rules instead of strict top-down control, when creativity is noted as collaborative, trial and error practice, and when even the greatest idea gets space to grow, turning abstract possibilities into real, tangible results.
Thanks for to giving me the chance for again. Over the past few months, like I have studied 6 Harvard Business Reviews and MIT slogans, management reviews, articles on creativity, innovations, and foresight below. I reflect on the key lessons I personally took away from each one. Written in my own voice as individual learning outcomes, I explained what stood out to me, why it resonated, and how I applied how I actually plan to apply it. The first one was planned opportunism using weak signals to spur the innovations, which is written by Vijay Govindarajan. From this article, I learned that true strategic innovation often comes from deliberately scanning for weak signals, find early indicators, measure future shifts, and then acting on them in a disciplined way, even when they seem counterintuitive. The opening example, Tata Consultancy Service, is devastating. Its booming call center business in the early 2000s hit me hard. At the time, offshore call centers were hugely profitable, yet TCS saw weak signals and customer demands for higher value services and choose to exit that businesses to focus on more sophisticated and IT services. This taught me that planned opportunism is not about waiting to opportunities to appear, but about you systematically monitoring the environment for emerging patterns and being ready to pivot. I now understand innovation as a balance between managing the present core business, actively creating the future. Govindarajan's framework and often fall at innovation because they are trapped in box one and they lack box three. Going forward, I want to cultivate the habit of regularly asking, what weak signals am I ignoring because they threaten my current success? This mind will help me to make bolder strategic choices in my own work. In step two, we talk about creativity by step, a conversation with a choreographer, Thiwala Third. Thiwala Third completely changed my view of creativity. I used to think creative genius was something you were born with, a mysterious spark. Third demonized that myth and convinced me that creativity is a habit built for the rigorous discipline and daily practice. She describes a process, ritual, preparation, building momentum, and the ruthless editing. What resonated most was her insistence that great work comes from preparation and persistence, not waiting for inspirations. She says it is a monomaniacal absorptions in the work. You have to be tough, even ruthless to protect your creative process. I learned that the creativity is a pragmatic business like thought treats choreography like a craft, show up, do the work, literate, and cut what doesn't serve the visions. The demystified creativity for me. I now plan to build my own creative rituals, a dedicated morning routine for idea generations, and stop excusing lack of output by saying I'm not inspired. Creativity is a muscle I can train. And the next one was like the flair and focus of successful futurists from Amy Webb. Amy Webb taught me a practical framework for forecasting the future successfully. Futurists constantly alternate between flair and focus. She introduced the Schiffer model, spotting early trends look like contradictions, inflections, practices, hacks, extreme, and rarities. Instead of focusing on mainstream data, start at the edges where hackers, academics, and outliers are experimenting. Most signals will be noise, but a few will become real trends. I realized had been too narrow in my thinking about the future, relying on obvious sources. Now I understand the plausible forecasting is a learning skill that requires both creative offense and logical rigor. I plan to apply this by regularly referring sources and mapping signals using cipher. This will make me better at anticipating changes rather than reacting to it. The fourth one was The Weird Rules of Creativity, written by Robert A. Sutton. Certain weird rules flipped many of the assumptions about managing creative teams. Conventional management wisdoms actually kills the creativity. Here, the rule stuck with me is hire slow, fire fast, which is especially underperformance or poison culture. Find happy, enthusiastic people and let them do what they love. Reward success and failure, but punish inaction. Encourage fighting and productive conflict, but stop it when it turns personal. Ignore what worked yesterday. Deliberately do things over that feel wrong. I learned that creativity thrives in environments that feel physiologically safe yet intellectually challenging. Managers must protect the creative process by removing obstacles quickly. I now see why some teams have been on fail stagnant. We avoided conflict and punished failed experiments. I want to create or join teams that embrace these counterintuitive rules. And the number five, we actually talk about weird ideas that spark innovations, which is also written by the Robert I. Sutton. This early Sutton pieces complements a weird rules article and introduced me to James Marsh's distinctions between exploitations and explorations. Companies must do both the survive to long term, but exploration requires accepting short term losses and uncertainty. Sutton argues that innovation demands weird practices like deliberately hiring people who make you uncomfortable, ignoring past success, and treating failure as a learning investment. The McDonald's examples using profits from reliable Big Macs to experiment with a faster cooking technology showed me that even high efficient organizations must fence resources for explorations. I learned that real innovation often feels wasteful or risky in the moment. This reinforced my resolve to allocate time and budget experimental projects even when the current work is going well. And number six, we actually talked about how Pixar fosters collective creativity written by Ed Catmull. Catmull descriptions of Pixar's culture was the most inspiring for all. Pixar sustains extraordinary creative output by building a system where collectively creativity trumps individual geniuses. The key practices that actually I took away. The first one is the brain trust. A group of trusted people, peers give candid, constructive feedback with no authority to force changes. The director retains final say. With the physiological safety, leaders openly admit mistakes and protect some new ideas from premature judgments. Postmortems after every film to learn without blame. Removing barriers so creative can focus on the work. I learned that the creative organizations treat mediocrity as the real enemy, not failure. Catmull's emphasis on candor without hierarchy showed me how to give and receive tough feedback constructively, and I now aspire to build to or contribute to teams that operate with this level of trust and rigor, where everyone feels responsible for making the work as good as it can possibly be. Uh, let's all of the things taken together. This reading shifted my entire mindset about creativity and innovation. I now see them not as rare talents or random events, but as disciplined process that can cultivate through habits, systems, foresight, and counterintuitive management practices. These recurring themes, embracing discomfort, protecting experimentations, scanning the fringe, building creative habits, and fostering candid cultures, give me a practical toolkit I can apply on all these things. Thank you.
Over this course, I haven't just learned about critical thinking. I've learned how to live it. It becomes a lens through which I see problems, ideas, and even myself. Initially, I defined critical thinking as the skill to pause, reflect, and look beyond the surface. It's a practical It's a personal mindset built on curiosity, honesty, and self-awareness. It means recognizing my own biases and emotions to stay objective. For me, it's about striking a balance between reason and openness, between careful analysis and the humility to admit mistakes. This mindset transformed how I approach every case study. When we studied the three-box solution, I saw that real innovation isn't just about wild new ideas. Box 3, it requires the often painful work of box 2, intentionally letting go of old habits and culture, as I noted. Without these difficult farewells to the past, true innovation cannot succeed. It taught me that critical thinking sometimes means making tough, deliberate choices to unlearn. Then came Norbert Saturn's weird rules, while intriguing. I critically evaluated them in structured fields like healthcare or aviation. Excessive chaos could be dangerous. This highlighted for me that creativity must find balance with order. True critical thinking isn't about blindly adopting a theory, but questioning its context and applicability. This connected powerfully to Twilight Sharp's view of creativity as a disciplined habit, not a random spark. It reinforced that groundbreaking ideas come from routine, perseverance, and showing up every day, a process built on logical, consistent effort, not just waiting for inspiration. This all crystallized with the flare and focus concept is the perfect metaphor for applied critical thinking. Flare is that open-minded, imaginative exploration, asking what if. Focus is the logical evidence-based analysis, asking how and why. One without the other is incomplete. This framework showed me how to structure my thinking, turning forecasting from guesswork into a clear, repeatable process. Finally, Ed Catmull's approach at Pixar showed me the environment needed for this thinking to thrive. Creativity and critical analysis flourish in conditions of psychological safety, open critique, and collaboration. It's about building a culture where people feel safe to challenge norms and learn from failures. This isn't just for animation studios. It's a blueprint for any team that wants to think deeply and innovate fearlessly. All these lessons converged in our study of Salman Khan's life's work. Here was a person using critical thinking on a grand scale. He questioned the traditional education model, analyzed its flaws, and used technology logically to create a personalized, accessible solution. His mission shows that when passion is guided by clear, fair, and reflective thinking, work becomes a lifelong mission for positive change. It embodies the very purpose of critical thinking to understand the world better in order to improve it. So, what is my individual learning? Critical thinking is more than a toolbox of skills. It is the disciplined practice of balancing imagination with analysis, courage with humility, and innovation with responsibility. It is about creating the mental and cultural space where truth can be sought, assumptions challenged, and better future built not by chance but by habit. It's the most powerful habit that I'm taking from this course, and I intend to keep exercising it every single day. Thank you.
If I may bring us back together, what we have shared tonight is more than a project presentation. It's a case study in applied critical thinking. From questioning to the status quo urban air mobility, to balancing gravity and logic, to an anticipating, risking and strengthening teamwork. Critical thinking was our compass. It guided us through Swarmflight and through every case study we explored this term, from Salman Khan mission to Pixar culture, from flare and focus for forecasting to the three-box solution. The lesson is clear: the future doesn't belong to those who have all the answers. It belongs to those who ask the right questions, think clearly, and collaborate broadly. Before we close, I'd like to share a final personal reflection. For me, this journey through Swarmflight, through every case study, through every late night meeting, taught me more than how to manage roles or analyze innovators. I thought it taught me how to think. I learned from Cyrus Tarp that creativity is built, not born. From Salman Khan that purpose face resistance. From Pixar that the best idea come from trust, not hierarchy. And from Amy Webb that the future belongs to those who balance imagination with evidence. As a leader, I learned to listen more than spoke, to create space for every voice in the room. I learned that a good idea isn't threatened by question, it's threatened by them. This class gave me more than a grade or a project. It gave me a new lens to see challenge as system, idea as a prototype, and teamwork as a trust from innovation. Thank you for listening us share just what we built, but what we become in the process.